with another episode of TubbTalk, the podcast for managed service providers. Now, long-time listeners to the show will know of my admiration and respect for CompTIA, who provides support for managed service providers, MSPs, through community meetings, advocacy, so many other different ways. And it was back in TubbTalk episode 161 that I interviewed MJ of CompTIA, and we referred to CompTIA as the MSP industry's best kept secret. Then a few months ago, in episode 168, I interviewed CompTIA's then president, Tubb about how CompTIA helps MSPs. Well, barely a week after that interview, and CompTIA announced that they'd been acquired. And so in today's episode, I've invited MJ back, who's the Chief Community Officer of the newly rebranded GTIA. More on that shortly. And MJ's come back to talk to us about what all of this means for managed service providers. MJ, it's fantastic to have you back on TubbTalk. And wow, things do change quickly in our industry, don't they?
I think you and I know that all too well.
Yeah,
Just wait a moment and something will change.
It's crazy. I mean, literally the week after I interviewed Todd, all these changes sort of came out. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise. So I guess,
Sure.
first of all, can you share the background on the acquisition of CompTIA and how this led to the formation of the Global Technology Industry Association, or GTIA?
Yeah, I'd love to, Rick, and hey, it's great to see you, and thank you so much for asking me to come back.
My
I love
pleasure.
doing this with you. It's a blast. Um, so yeah, what's interesting is a lot of people were, understandably a bit confused at first because they're like, wait, CompTIA is a nonprofit membership association. How can it be acquired? That doesn't make
Exactly.
sense. And
Yeah.
so the association itself was not acquired. I think that's the piece that was kind of hard to clearly communicate in the early days. So the association had always, for 42 years, was known as the Computing Technology Industry Association, or CompTIA. CompTIA became the acronym for that long name. And over the years, it also became our brand. And as many people know, we have or had, CompTIA has. It's hard to get your hads and your hases straight now. Um, CompTIA has a thriving certification and training business. That revenue funded all of our work as a nonprofit association. Well, the opportunity presented itself for the association to sell the CompTIA brand along with that certification and training business. And in exchange for doing that, we received a very nice sum of money, which has created an endowment which will fund the operations of the association in perpetuity. So now what was the association has now become the Global Technology Industry Association, or GTIA for short, because we sold the brand name and we can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with a new name. And CompTIA, the brand, and the products and services of the certification and training business are now a for-profit company known as CompTIA Incorporated. And so they're off doing what they're doing. They got the investment that they needed to grow that business, and we got the investment that we needed to double down on what we do for our members, who are MSPs, solution providers, the vendors, distributors, and other organizations in the IT channel. So it truly is a gift to the industry. And it's a
Yeah.
gift that will, cliche aside, it is the literal gift that will keep on giving. We will be able to fund our operations and raise our charitable giving dramatically, all off the earnings on the endowment. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing, truly no one saw it coming, but market conditions were such that it presented an opportunity. And if you are a GTIA member, you hopefully got the email that I sent out on behalf of our former CEO, Todd, a few days after the close. And he shared that he'd had this vision for years now, of that there might be a time when there was a way to financially secure the association forever and allow it to solely focus on what it does best. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You've done such a good job of explaining that, because, as you said, I remember at the time, I when the story broke, I was getting people texting me because a lot of people, certainly in the UK, are aware of my background with CompTIA. I'm a huge advocate for it. Used to be involved in the community side, chair of the community in the UK. Anyway, got these texts from people going, "Oh my, they've been acquired." I'm like, "Nah, you've got to be wrong. That's not true because CompTIA is a non-profit. I'm not sure how it can be acquired." So you've done a really good job of explaining. So I'm very conscious we're going to have possibly two types of people who are going to be watching or listening to this podcast. We're going to have IT professionals who work in the IT
Mhm.
industry, very aware of CompTIA from the A plus and the Network Plus and all the certifications,
Yeah.
probably not even aware of the other side of what was then or what is now GTIA. And then you've got the GTIA members who are typically MSPs or work in the managed service provider space and are only vaguely aware that, oh yeah, CompTIA are known widely in the rest of the world for doing these accreditations and things. So the good news is, to paraphrase you, the good news is CompTIA are going to carry on with their mission, and GTIA, which was the CompTIA community, is going to carry on with their mission, except you're going to have the resources you need to go to the moon and back with this thing.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And also for those members that used to take advantage, we've always had a discount available to members for CompTIA certifications and training. Well, over the years, CompTIA community members actually bought a sufficient volume in those certifications that as GTIA, we've been able to maintain that because we've in essence become a very large customer of CompTIA
Yeah.
certification and training because so many of our members purchase those certifications. So we're still able to provide our members a 20% discount on CompTIA trainings and certs, which is great because,
Awesome.
most members may buy you know anywhere from one or two certifications or trainings to perhaps tens or hundreds depending how large they are, but individually they would never qualify for that discount, but under the GTIA umbrella they do. So it's from that perspective it's a huge win-win, massive win-win.
Yeah.
And for the IT pros, CompTIA now has the dedicated financial resources to pursue all of the new trainings and certs. It is not a trivial undertaking to build and maintain those certifications because they meet all kinds of government criteria around the world. It takes millions and millions of dollars. And so now they have the free, not free, nothing's free, but the ready access, that's the better way to say it, the ready access to the capital that they need. There's no more competition for those dollars to invest in two different, really what were two different businesses. Now we each have the resources to serve our members, our customers, as well as we possibly can.
Yeah, and so there's still a link there, isn't there, between CompTIA and GTIA, not just historically, but tell us more about, you mentioned the funding side of things. So how exactly does this work going forward? CompTIA, sorry, there I go. And I should say, for the benefit of listeners, MJ and I, before we came on air, said we need to have like the equivalent of a swear jar type thing where we say every time one of us slips up and mentions CompTIA when we're supposed to be saying GTA and vice versa. So I'm the first $5 in there.
Who's good? When next time we meet up in the pub, we'll see who's buying the most amount of
I'm
rounds.
telling you now, it could be a big round, couldn't it? The way we're going on with it. So everything's fresh and new here. GTIA, the funding. So you alluded to it earlier. So what does that relationship look like? Because previously, the CompTIA, almost the commercial arm, if we want to call them
Yeah,
CompTIA, funded or helped to fund the non-profit. So there are
right.
still links there. Can you talk a little bit more to how that looks like between CompTIA and GTIA going forward?
Sure, sure. I do just want to qualify one thing. There
Yeah.
actually are not any links. We're
Okay.
completely 100% separate organizations.
Got it.
Um, the the way it used to work, you're right. Trade associations typically earn their income from one of two sources. They either sell something, memberships, maybe research papers, they put on events that bring in revenue, or they develop some type of professional certification and training program.
Got it.
And so, in the case of what used to be the CompTIA community, CompTIA developed a very robust training and certification business. And the revenue from that then funded the maintenance and development of new certifications and training, and the operations of the trade association, what was the CompTIA community. The association has now sold off those revenue generating activities, and the proceeds of that sale completely accrued to the benefit of the association. In other words, the association was paid for the brand and those that commercial side of the business, if you will.
Yeah.
The proceeds of that sale have created an endowment that is large enough and professionally managed such that it will kick off earnings that will fund the association's activities. So
Got
we
it.
don't intend to actually invade the principle of that endowment. We intend to let that grow over the years because our budget will grow over the years. And so
Yeah.
the larger that endowment becomes, the larger the earnings. It funds our operations today. We've announced our intention to raise our charitable giving into the tens of millions of dollars annually. That's going to take the better part of this year to get set up, believe it or not. It's not easy to give money away.
Yes, I'm with you. I've been a part of the old CompTIA community and understood that. That's a big learning
Yeah.
for us. Yeah.
We're still, so the community this year, the GTIA community will still have the opportunity to give away the money that it has historically to fund charities in the local regions. But we're going to take this to a whole new level, and we're going to have a professional um, managed solution for people to submit funding requests for the organizations. It's going to have to be a verifiable charity. It can't be a private individual or some neat thing that you or I might decide to do. It has to be a registered charity so that we know that the money's going to the right purpose. And we want it to have some kind of impact within the technology space, whether making technology education or technology products or services available to underserved communities, help people, learn about different elements that will aid the workforce, things like that. Some relation to the industry and what we're all so passionate about. But we're going to take this to a new level, and we have some professional philanthropic managers that are helping us build out this process and will help us make the determination where the right place for these funds to go. Because as I said, surprisingly, at least to me, it's not so easy to give away
No.
that much money. It's much easier to give away a few £1,000s than it is to give away 1 million.
Well, that's incredible news. First of all, for everybody involved, because there's so much goes on behind the scenes in this community that perhaps even
Yes.
people like myself who come along to meetings and stuff all the time, that we don't see that. But the community giving to charity was always something that, first of all, was really heartwarming, but did make an impact with the charities that we got involved with. So to hear that that's not only going to continue, but going to be amplified by 10
Yes.
times, 100 times, or whatever, incredible news. And on that subject of sort of great news and that, what has the feedback been like to GTIA within the industry? Because like me, you must have been getting text messages and things from friends, colleagues, and that. First of all, concerned, or what does this mean? And now that it's settling in a little bit, are perhaps excited by the possibilities. What's the feedback been like?
Honestly, the feedback has been, I think, better than any of us could have hoped for. Once, to your point, once we got through that initial confusion, like, wait, what's going on? Who's being acquired? What's being acquired? Once we were able to sort of clarify that, the feedback has been tremendous. And speaking of, the charitable giving, which we were just talking about, it's really been gratifying to see members' eyes light up when we talk about that, because they're to your point, they're connecting those dots.
Yeah,
Being a member of the GTIA community isn't just about what you're getting out of it, what your company's getting out of it, but you can be part of something bigger that gives back to the world and helps to make, you know, things better in communities all over the globe. And look, politics aside, there's probably no better time than now to be able to feel good about something like that, because there's just so much turmoil out there. And so this is something that can really do good. And I've always been passionate about the fact that one of the things that I love about this industry is that we really do make an impact. You know, the work of our members, the work of everyone in the IT channel, it impacts the global economy. This is not up for debate. It's fact. I mean, we empower so many businesses to be successful. And, when the economy is healthy, there's opportunity for people all across the economic spectrum. The better forms of political governments seem to take hold in a much more stable way than I guess we're seeing right now. So I think there's a lot there, and I could talk for hours about that. But it's not just a feel good. It's a feel good that actually accomplishes something, and so that's huge. And then just in general, the feedback has been so positive. We've really been gratified. People really love the new logo, the brand. I mean, I've gotten so many comments like, "Whoa, GTIA is everywhere. The brand is everywhere." And that was an opportunity that we intentionally seized on because, as you mentioned at the beginning, right, we used to talk about the CompTIA community being the best kept secret in the industry. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that GTIA is not, that people really understand what it is, where, that unique position that we sit in the industry where we can be that big open tent where everyone comes together and works for everyone's benefit. It's so great when one member is celebrating the success of another, and sometimes they're even fierce competitors, and they're collaborating and helping one another, because if we all help one another and we make this industry the best it can be, that impact that I just talked about, it can grow. There's unlimited potential for what that can mean for the world. And so it's so far it's been terrific. We held our first community meeting as GTIA in early February, February 6th, in Mechelen, Belgium, in our Benelux region, which is just across the English Channel from
Yeah.
from our UK and Ireland community. And we had record registration, we had record attendance. The engagement was off the charts. People were so enthusiastic and impressed that that we looked like we'd been at this for years, which, hey, we kind of have been at this for
Yes.
years, but we had to put all new wrappers on everything. Um, and we had a couple of board members who were there. Our chair, Tracy Pound, was there, and one of our vice chairs, Q, was there, and they both spoke about what this means for the membership and what this means for the industry at large. So it was just really nice to see that level of support from the very top of we're governed by a volunteer board of directors, and they're passionate people who believe in what we're doing. And it was just nice to see that what we're doing really is resonating, and we absolutely have an opportunity with this renaming and rebranding to really double down on the message and what it means for our members.
Yeah, and again, for the benefit for anybody who's watching this who wasn't aware of CompTIA, is wondering about GTIA and saying these guys are waxing lyrical about how awesome these community meetings are. We won't go into why they're so awesome now, but back in episode 161, MJ and I sat down. Where was it? Were we in America, in London? I forget where we were.
I can't remember either. I want to say we were in the US, but I mean, we should have been in the UK.
Oh, I tell you where we were. We were in Atlanta for
You're right.
the
Yes, it was the
ChannelCon.
ChannelCon last summer. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but
You're
anyway,
100% right.
so there we go. Two veterans of the industry not remembering where they actually sat down and had a conversation. There's another conversation there. But yeah, MJ and I sat down for episode 161. So if you're watching this, listening to this and going, well, why is GTIA valuable to the MSP industry? I'd highly encourage you go back and listen to that and swap out the word CompTIA and GTIA, unlike me and MJ, who are going to make that mistake a dozen times more in this episode. But you'll get the idea. But so moving forward, GTIA, you've already mentioned the rebrand. You've got to have all the new logos and everything there. Where did that come from? What was the decision making process around, first of all, the acronym GTIA, and secondly,
Yep.
the incredible branding that you've got now? And it really does look incredible.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. And I'll pass that on to our marketing team. They'll be thrilled. Honestly, it happened in an unbelievably compressed timeline. I won't even tell you how this happened because you'll be like, okay, that is so not reality, but it was. I mean, this whole process came on pretty fast. There were ups and downs like any deal, and there were times when we weren't sure it was going to happen, and then once we were sure it was happened, it was all hands on deck. And if I'm not mistaken, the actual idea for the name, it either came from Todd, our former CEO, or Charles Eaton, who was our former chief of staff. One of them came up with the idea, and it was all, and where the genesis of it was, as you know, and as any members listening know, over the last several years, we've really leaned into our global communities, and we've expanded into the DACH region in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, into the ASEAN region in Asia Pacific, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And we want to continue that because we think that's one of the key elements of the magic that is the GTIA community. It's not, we're not just a US organization. Yes, we were founded in the United States. Yes, we are chartered as what's known as a 501c6 nonprofit trade association. We are staunchly vendor neutral, but we are equally staunchly global. The UK and Ireland was our first international community, as you well know, and the success of that led to Benelux, then it led to ANZ, which then led to DACH, which now led to ASEAN, and we've got our targets on our next few stops around the globe of where we would like to go. And so the whole notion was, well, let's lean into that global identity. That really says something. The Computing Technology Industry Association's a little bit of an obsolete name from that perspective because it's not about computing. It's all about technology.
Agreed.
And it's all about being that global society, being that global look. We all hopefully recognize that we are forever intertwined economically, societally. You know, Technology is and can be the great equalizer, right? It could, there are certainly some downsides too. I'm not trying to just, paint the rosy picture, but like anything, if we manage it and develop it responsibly, it can be a great equalizer, a great enabler. And so we leaned into that. And then when we I think we looked at about 7 different designs for a logo. We contracted with a trusted partner to like give us some ideas, and we actually brought in a second partner to get some other ideas. And we went back to one of the very first. This was one of the first 3 concepts, and it felt like an appropriate nod to where we've come from. We maintained that red. CompTIA is a very deep, robust red color. The GTIA red is a little softer, a little more hues of pinkish, I think, in terms of how to differentiate. And then if you notice the bottom of the logo, it's like a turned corner. It's like we've turned the page. And so we felt like it was a really nice, we loved the angular nature of the logo. We loved how the return of the G was kind of like an upward trajectory of progress and innovation with an appropriate nod to turning that page and then leaning into being global. And GTIA, look, the Global Technology Industry Association is a mouthful. I love it, but it's a mouthful. So GTIA is a heck of a lot easier to talk about.
And it's probably easier to say than back in the day when we used to say CompTIA or CompTIA, or Todd
Right,
and I
right,
joked
right.
about that on the podcast. There was so many
Oh yeah, we get all,
pronunciations that
we've
were
gotten all kinds. Do I say this? Do I say that? We're like, okay, well, that one's a 10-pound fine. That one's a 50-pound fine. So no, don't say that one. It's GTIA.
Well, let's get to you talking to branding and things. Let's get to the burning question here. I know it's
Yeah.
forefront of my mind, and millions of people are watching this, want to get the answer to one question here, MJ. Are we going to have GTIA branded socks like we did at CompTIA?
Oh, you better believe it.
Oh,
We are
thank
not giving up
goodness.
we're not giving up the soft mantle.
I guess so. People listening to this are going, "What on earth are they on about the socks?" So
I know, I know. Yeah,
it used to be an
that was
insider
that was my
thing.
that was my predecessor, Nancy Hammerbeck. She definitely she brought the socks to the then CompTIA community, and God, did they take off in
Oh,
popularity?
you're not
Just
kidding. And for the benefit again of listeners, what on earth are they on about with the socks? So when CompTIA back then, CompTIA introduced the socks, the branded socks. Everybody wanted them. Everybody got them. And I remember going along to, and it was a different community meeting, and somebody, a great friend of ours, said, "Hey, have a look at this," and showed me their new socks. And I'd not long stepped down as chairman. I was like, how have you got hold of those socks
where'd you
before
get
me? This
that?
is not right. This is not the way. But there is something. There's a lot of fun competition, people getting all the socks and everything. So
There
glad
is.
to hear
So
they're
the
continuing.
CompTIA community socks are now collector's items.
Exactly.
You could probably hawk them on eBay and make some money
I
money
might put them in
on.
my retro computer museum here.
Ooh,
They're off their
that's a
time.
great
So
idea.
yeah.
That's a great
So
idea.
so joking aside, hilarity aside, like let's talk about the practical implications of this. So we've already
Yeah.
talked about GTAI is going to continue on the mission that we had before, bigger and better. The charitable giving is going to be bigger and better than before. What else could we expect? What other emerging projects have GTIA got going on that are going to be of direct benefit to MSPs?
Well, I mean, candidly, and to be very transparent, we're still evaluating that. We're still in the early days. At the time we're recording this, I think this might be day 23 or day 24 since the transition, business days, that is. So,
Yes.
we're still early days. But what we are doing is we're holding a series of town halls. We held one in North America. We have one coming up February, I believe it's the evening, no, it's the day time of February 13 in region for ANZ and ASEAN. And then on the 17th of Feb, we have one for our UK and European audiences. And the whole notion of these town halls is that anybody can come and ask us anything, suggest anything. We had I think somewhere around 112 or more attendees on the North America one. I know registration is up. I think it might be up in the 80s, 90s now for the next one. But this is really, we're doing these town halls. It's myself and Kelly Ricker, who's our chief operating officer, and we're doing these to solicit feedback, to answer any questions that people may have and hear what people want. And we're gonna consolidate all of that input from those three town halls and then talk with our board about any potential changes in direction. I don't expect anything significant because what we're hearing to date is really just, members love the events and the networking. Members love the member education and love the research. And then our mentorship program is really taking off. But the top values that members see are the events and the networking, the education, the fact that there's no selling from the stage at our events. It's all vendor neutral thought leadership and education, and then the actual library of educational courses that we have available for members and our research. And so, we're absolutely staying laser focused on those. We are making some enhancements. For example, near and dear to your readers, what used to be known as the EMEA Member and Partner Conference that takes place in the fall every year in London, we're going to rename that ChannelCon EMEA. We're going to lean into the ChannelCon brand as our premier event brand. And we've got it in the summer in the US, as where you and I last saw each other. And now we'll have one in the UK European market. We're even talking about down the road, testing out, moving it over to the continent, maybe bouncing it between the UK and the continent every other year or something like that. We've got that flexibility now to
Yeah.
explore what will resonate the best for members. Our member ed is all, it's all almost done being rebranded. I think we had to rebrand everything and update all the assets, but we have a library of over 30 member education courses now. As a matter of fact, when we had that first community meeting that I mentioned earlier in Benelux, we offered our managing the technology channel training for the first time, which is a live training course for vendor and distributor members. And we delivered that for the first time in the region, and there were 20 some odd students, I think, which was terrific. And really, really good reviews. That's one of our most popular live education courses, but we also have self-paced online instructor led. We try to make it as easy as possible for our members to consume these benefits. And so, now's the time to let us know how we can best help, what we can double down on. we have an online suggestion box out on our website. You can just go to gtia.org/suggestion box and submit any and all ideas. And we've committed, you will actually hear from a person when you do that. We will respond personally and let you know we got your idea, ask any questions we may have about it. But more to come on that, as we settle in and as we really get things refined. But for now, we've really focused on, let's keep the member benefits exactly as they are. Let's double down and make sure that they're easily accessible, that we're constantly asking for feedback. We're in listen mode. We want to hear from members, non-members, prior members. We're here to serve you. That's our sole purpose. So let us know how we can best serve you.
Yeah, and let me pick up on something you said earlier there. And talking of membership, of course, we've talked about MSPs. I'm a former MSP myself. You are as well. But
Yeah.
vendors, of course, are a huge part of this ecosystem. And one thing CompTIA got very well known for, and I recommended the CompTIA communities to all of vendors that I do advisory work with. Anybody
Mhm.
who would ask me, I'd say, oh, it's a no-brainer. You've got to get along to CompTIA. But just remember, there's no pitching, no selling. So you're going to have to build those relationships the way you should be doing anyway. I felt like saying it
Right.
to them, to build long term relationships. So let us know about GTIA. Vendors are still welcome, I take it. Vendors are still a big part of that ecosystem there. And the no pitching policy, that continues?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
We
good.
are, we are staying very true to our roots. We are a vendor neutral association. So that means we do not take sponsorship dollars. We do not promote one member over another member. Everybody is equal in the GTIA world. And so, dues are heavily subsidized, but it's all inclusive. We don't nickel and dime. So you pay your dues, you get free access to all the events, free access to all the courses, all the meetings, all the research, all the everything, the unlimited participation in our mentorship program. The membership belongs to the company, and every employee at the company has full access to those member benefits. So we're also a unique model there because for us, it's not about generating revenue. Um, for us, it's about making sure there's some skin in the game, because what we've seen is if you don't pay for something, you
You
tend
don't
not to
you
consume
don't
it.
value it.
So
You don't value it.
right,
Yeah.
there's a lack of value. But I'll tell you, and I not only believe this, but I say this from experience. As you mentioned, both of us being former MSPs, my CompTIA dues back in the day it was never even a consideration
No.
whether to renew or not, because it was so inexpensive. And if I couldn't find that much value, then clearly I wasn't even trying, because just going to one event or reading one research paper more than paid for my membership every year. And I would leverage those resources in my conversations with my customers at the time. So it's, I not only, you know, am very passionate about the work that I do today, it's also based on experience, because I was a CompTIA member for what, 20 odd years before I actually joined CompTIA, and that wasn't even by design. That was just a funny set of circumstances that led to it. But I feel so fortunate to be doing this work. It's the right thing at the right time for all the right reasons, and that speaks a lot to the ethos of GTIA and what we do. We do our very best to do the right thing for the right reasons at the right time. And so we need our members' input to make sure that we make good on that.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about this community, this global community, GTIA. And again, I would encourage anybody not familiar with this. We won't deep dive today, but go back and listen to my prior conversation with MJ. You'll find out all the details. But for the benefit of anybody who's never been along to a meeting, for
Mm.
instance, a regional meeting, and I know we're recording this the start of February, and by the way, kudos to you and the entire team. Like, from going from the announcement to rebranding, and I know there's a lot of work still to go, but my goodness, you've covered a lot of ground in a really short period of time. So
Thank you.
that's
It
incredible.
it
But
we
yeah,
have, and it's a credit, and all kidding aside, it's a credit to the team. I mean,
yeah,
we've always had, we always will have, because of our culture and our values, just the best team. There are so many people that give their all behind the scenes. There are a few of us that are out and about and more readily seen, but there's a team of 60 odd folks here that just truly believe in what we do and love the opportunity to do this work and help our members. And it's the credit goes to the whole, the, every single person who's been involved in this has been so critically important. It has been one of the most I'm not gonna spin. It's been one of the most challenging, frustrating at times, but fun and rewarding experiences of my career to navigate through this transition. And the hopefully this is the start of what's to be even better. I won't even say hopefully, I know it is. And so it's been a great pleasure, and I appreciate your kind words very much on behalf of the whole team.
Well, thank you, everybody involved in GTIA. So I said we're recording this in early February at the moment. You've already done incredible work getting the GTIA branding out there. You held your first GTIA member meeting, community meeting across in the Benelux. You've got another one coming up in UK and Ireland, over in Dublin. I
Mhm.
think it is in March as
Yep.
we record this. But some people, MJ, are going to be listening to this 6 months in the future, a year in the future. So let's not get bogged down in specific dates. But for anybody listening to this and they've already heard a few things they like that are going to be of benefit to their MSP from GTIA membership. But let's talk specifically about the one that I say is a no-brainer. Like you, I pay my membership every year. I'm not an MSP. I don't sell or whatever to MSPs. Going along to the meetings and getting to hang out with people like yourself and Tracy Pound and Robert Gibbons and so many, Rob Ray, so many other people from this community, great names. For me, that's a no-brainer. But don't take my
Yeah.
word for it, MJ. If an MSP is watching this 18 months, they're watching this sometime in 2026 and going, "Oh, I've just discovered GTIA. I like the sound of it." What the heck goes on at these meetings to make them so good for MSPs? Give that MSP an overview. What goes on at these meetings? Where do they take place? How often? And what value do attendees get from them?
Yeah, so great question. And there are so many meetings that take place, both in person and virtually. Literally, there's something going on several times every month, from regular member meetups that we host online to the in-person community meetings we've talked about, our premier events that we've talked about. I would say, keep an eye on gtia.org/events and pick something that looks interesting to you and give it a try and come with an open mind and try to push your comfort zone. If you're not, I think it's safe to say the two of us might be a little on the extrovert scale,
Do you think so?
but
Wallflowers
maybe.
that we are, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love that line. I say that all the time. I'm such a wallflower, and people just roll their eyes at me. I was shy as a kid, though, but that's a whole nother podcast. Um, but if you are a little more reserved or you are a little bit of an introvert and you're not sure, I think I'm going to give you a firsthand example that's very present in my mind. I met a woman last week. She was sitting by herself during one of the networking breaks. She was just sitting at a table sipping a cup of coffee, and I thought I recognized her. I thought I might have seen her at a prior meeting. So I walked over and I introduced myself and I said, "Have we met before?" And she said, "Yeah, I was at the last meeting." And she said, "I'm still trying to figure out." And we started talking, and she's in sales for an MSP. And we started talking, and I started sharing some of the things, some of the formerly CompTIA resources, now GTIA resources that I used to use in my client meetings with my customers back in the day, the things I used to share internally with my staff. We were a smaller MSP. We were in the New England area in the United States, if you're familiar with that, the northeast corner, small states. We like to think we're the center of the universe up there, but I think you could take all of New England and drop it inside a good many states, and certainly England itself would dwarf us, or the UK. But regardless, I used to leverage the fact that we were a member of this global trade association in our industry to bring resources and bring concepts and knowledge and best practices that as a smaller organization in a smaller part of the world, we never would have developed or had access to on our own. And that got us a lot of credibility with our customers and helped us grow a pretty successful business that jeepers, I sold 10 years ago already. I don't know where the time goes, but I had a great dialogue with this person just about, how to leverage the membership. And so I would say the most important thing you can do, absolutely, you can go out to gtia.org, you can click on membership, you can learn about all the member benefits. I could sit here and throw benefit after benefit after benefit at you, but at some point, either online or even better in person, participate in one of the meetings and just put yourself out there just a little bit. Introduce yourself to one person you don't know and see what comes from that. Maybe nothing today, maybe something down the road, maybe something significant today. The woman that I mentioned that I was speaking with last week, I helped her determine which of the two breakout sessions to go to. And I saw her later on and she said, "Thank you. Your advice was spot on. I got so much out of that breakout. That was terrific. I've got a ton of ideas to go back and work on." And so, it's like so many things in life. It's there for you. You just have to put yourself out just a little bit. If you just sit back and expect the benefits to come to you and show you how to better yourself, we all know that doesn't work. We've got to put a little, my dad used to say, a little elbow grease into it. That's what I did when I joined CompTIA back in the year 2000. Actually, I had participated in a marketing webinar that went on quarterly. And the culmination of it was an in-person session at what is now ChannelCon, what then used to be called Breakaway. And I got way out of my comfort zone and flew across the country to California for the first time in my life. I'd never been, no, I take that back. I was in California once before I fibbed. But I went out and I was blown away by what I saw. Once I learned about the full scope of the benefits that were available to me, that one trip was probably the best investment I made in my professional career. Um,
Yeah.
so everyone's experience will be different, but just I encourage you just to dip your toe in the water and see if it's right for you. It may not be. That's okay too. It's I'm not trying to say that we're the be all end all and that every single person should belong. I think if you are in the IT channel, I think there is a place for you, and I think there is ample benefit, but don't take my word for it. Listen to people like Rick, listen to other members, and we're trying to showcase more of our members, because it's one thing if we say it, it's another thing entirely if a member says it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'll reiterate for anybody listening, watching this, get yourself out to a GTIA community meeting, whether it's online or in person, but especially the in person ones. They deliver so much value. And again, if you've never been to a peer group meeting or a community group meeting before, understand the nervousness. I can remember going into a room full of competitors in air quotes
Yeah.
there. It's not like that at all. Everybody is super, super friendly. Seek somebody out there who can introduce you to others. You will get so much value from it. And I fully understand for MSPs who are watching this, listening to this, it's a big investment of your time and money to take away from the business, perhaps to travel somewhere to do it. But my goodness, I'm speaking as a former MSP owner, the same as MJ is. One of the biggest investments you can make is going along to these type of peer group, community group meetings. You will get a return on investment that you can't even understand at the moment from that. So
Excuse
yeah,
me.
absolutely. Bless you there.
So, sorry about that. Oh,
That's
my team tells me I have a Zoom allergy, that I always sneeze on meetings. It's like I rarely sneeze, but when I'm online, it tends to happen.
well,
No explanation for that.
no explanation for that. Let's talk about your hopes for the future. You mentioned the H word. I hope this is going to get there. So give us a peek into your brain here. You've got
Yeah.
great things going on. I know there's some things that are still being solidified at the moment, but you've got to have some desires. You've got to have some hopes that you want to, as part of GTIA, deliver. So let's
Oh yeah. I
fast
mean,
forward 5 years. Let's say, what does GTIA look like then?
We've always struggled with this battle about, do we want a smaller number of members who are highly engaged or a larger pool of members?
Yeah.
But when you have a really large pool of members, the engagement tends to drop. I'd love to solve for that and find the happy medium there where we could continue to grow our membership. We have a little over 2,200 member companies right now. I think that represents about 80,000 individuals at those companies who've registered for benefits. And then we've got a subscriber list, a freemium list, if you will, of over 260,000. I'd love to solve for a better ratio of engagement to those numbers, and really see more of our members leaning into the value that the membership really provides. So, how do you do that? You continue to focus on the things that members tell you matter most and provide the most value, and you listen to your members. We say all the time we're a member-led association, and so members have taken us to each of the global regions. We're revising our model for that. We're not going to start a global region without having a manager for that region hired and in place in the region. So as we continue to expand, we're going to do that smarter and try to get faster engagement from those new communities, because as you said at the beginning, right, the one thing we know that's constant is change and
Yeah.
evolution, and sometimes it can be wildly disruptive. Sometimes it can just be incremental. But I think, for me, solving that balance of membership size to membership engagement, I want to see more engagement across the board with, we've got such great member benefits. And, what we see is when members engage, their satisfaction rate goes up dramatically. We have a ridiculously high positive member satisfaction rate. We have for all of the last 10 years, if not longer. We're very, very fortunate like that. And when members actually engage, it shoots into the mid 90 percentile, which is unheard of in the nonprofit world. It's a real credit to the team and to everyone who works together. And it's not just our professional team, it's also our volunteer leaders. And so to provide more opportunity for those volunteer leaders to give back to the community that they want to do, and to help them develop more professionally as well. I think, those are some things. The global expansion, obviously, we want to continue that. I want to see us to have global communities in the regions where there are concentrations of members making a difference. There's lots of opportunity there still to expand and bring those global best practices and global perspectives together to help everyone. Um, I'd love to see our ChannelCon event be a global event. It's already North America and the UK and Ireland. I'd love to see it establish its presence on the European continent, in the Asia Pac, ANZ region, and more. It's going to take years to do that. You don't just snap your fingers and do that overnight. There are lots of hurdles to overcome, but there's value there, and there's value that we should be bringing everywhere. Our spotlight awards, our member recognition, those programs are so popular. We do them in North America, in the UK and Ireland, and in ANZ. I'd love to see those expand into other regions as well, where we recognize members who are really outstanding in different areas, and we recognize people for cybersecurity expertise, community leadership, innovation in the MSP space, innovation in the vendor and distributor space, advancing women in IT, DEI, if I didn't say that already. We're going to stay true to our core principles and those of our members, and we're going to continue these programs and recognize individuals and organizations that are really doing some outstanding work in those areas. And I think it's nice, we give our hearts and souls to our businesses, to our careers, and it's nice to see that recognition. So I'd love to see that continue to expand. So just so many possibilities, and things we haven't even imagined yet, right? Who knows all I know for sure is we'll be here and we'll continue to be delivering probably the vast majority of the benefits that we have today. I can't wait to see what else we develop over the next 3 to 5 years. There's just
Yeah.
So much opportunity to help our members.
Exciting times, and I always love spending time with you, both online and in
Same.
person. You are one of my favorite people to spend time with. You're also, and this will make you blush, one of the smartest people that I know, and finger on the pulse of the industry, student of the game. So I can't pass up this opportunity. And for the benefit of our audience as well, what do you see going on in the industry at the moment? What are the trends that you're seeing that is catching your eye? Obviously, AI is an obvious
Yeah.
one. We can talk about that. But what should the MSPs be paying attention to at the moment? The big changes that are happening.
Yeah, I think, I think there are a couple. One is without question AI, right? It's on everybody's mind. You see it everywhere. The challenge, and we've navigated this before as a community. The challenge is not to get caught up in the hype cycle and
Yeah.
focus on the actual practical applications of AI. So we've got a neat project going on right now that I'm not quite ready to fully reveal, but we have an event coming up in the US called our Communities and Councils Forum and our North America Spotlight Awards. And we're gonna tease that out during that, and showcase some of the actual solution. Not showcase, that's not the right word, but we're going to weave into that event a progression of actual practical AI solutions that members have seen benefit from to try to get people thinking in the right way, because it's not just about throwing AI at something. it's
No.
about it's about asking that most important question: why am I getting involved in AI? Why am I pursuing this? How is it going to benefit my business? How is it going to benefit my customers? We went through that hype cycle with cybersecurity, and we're continuing to double down on that. So, and AI and cybersecurity are intersecting. Are they intersecting well? That's a point of debate right now. Is there opportunity to improve that intersection and help deal with, cybersecurity is just this massive volume of, in many cases, noise. And how do you discern from the noise what you actually need to worry about? Look, none of us are going to be able to protect ourselves against the nation state if they target us. So it's actually not about necessarily prevention, but awareness. Do I know what's happening? Do I know what it's touching? And then how do I respond based on that? So there's continual evolution there. Our cybersecurity trust mark is going to be a big part of that, and our cybersecurity education. There are hundreds of companies going through that right now, which is great to see. And then it's about the people. It's about workforce. Where this is an aging industry. I'll tell you, it's terrific to see the younger generation getting involved. Last week, and again at the Benelux meeting, we had a young woman who led some sessions in what's called our Genius Cafe, an opportunity to do some one-on-one mentoring. I know you're familiar with that, and it's great to see the younger generation starting to get involved because they're the future. That's who we need to empower. It's not guys like me. I'm a little older than you, so I'm not going to pick on you. Um, but our time is coming where we're going to age out and ride off into the sunset, and we need to make sure that younger. I mean, I still feel very young. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ready to hang this hat up yet,
Glad to hear
but.
it.
Uh, but that really we've got to focus on how do we get the younger generation engaged and rising up into leadership. They're very, very capable, and we're seeing more and more of that happening across the industry. So I think that's another big area of focus, is making sure that we've got a robust talent pipeline, and we can all be a part of that.
Yeah, and I've got to say, one of the most fascinating conversations, and I'm talking not a single conversation, broad conversations I've ever had, was from the communities about how do we encourage young people into this industry. And you touched upon it a little bit earlier. Computing is an old term now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It reminds me of some of the machines I can see to my left and right here: Atari, Commodore, Sinclair,
Yep.
things like that, with all due respect. But also, IT is becoming a little bit of an outdated term that young people perhaps think of IT as being word processors and all of this
Right.
sort of stuff. Digital technology, these are the terms. So I know we're talking semantics here, but I picked that up from conversations that I had at GTIA meetings in the past, and these are the type of conversations we need to be having if we're to shepherd the industry in the direction we want it to go in a positive way.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. It's, the the what is it? I'm drawing a blank on the cliche, but for lack of a better way, the beauty and the curse of this industry is it's constantly evolving and it's constantly
Change.
adapting, and that can make you crazy, but it can also really excite you.
Yeah.
And so it's, we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our collective customers to always be thinking and always be open to new ideas, new ways to do things, new applications of technology, to make sure that we're doing the right things for our customers, and helping them in turn do the right things for their customers.
Yeah. Well, MJ, I have loved this conversation. I was thrilled that we could get the time because I know you are a super busy dude at the moment
Eh,
with everything that's going on. So thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to us about
it's my
CompTIA's
pleasure. I
migration.
always love our chats.
And and CompTIA's migration to GTIA. That's going to take some time to get used to, but I think I only slipped up once in that conversation. And
I only caught you once, so
if
I
you
think we're
slipped up, I
good.
didn't hear it. So
We'll go back and watch this when we go live, and we'll take a tally. But I think you're okay.
well, for the benefit of listeners, if anybody watching, listening to this wants to continue the conversation with you personally, MJ, or to find out more about GTIA, what's the one thing that you would want them to do after this?
Yeah, just, well, one thing I would say, just go out to the website, the
Yeah,
gtia.org. But you're welcome to reach out to me directly anytime. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. My email address is super simple. It's mjshore@gtia.org. I love hearing from folks. Happy to hop on a quick meeting, phone call, whatever works. Meet up with you somewhere at an event. Yeah, my door is always open, and I'm happy to talk about anything of interest.
fantastic. Well, MJ, you are one of the industry's good guys. I appreciate you. Appreciate all the
Thank you,
work
Rick. You
you and
are
the
as
team
well.
have done this. Thank you, mate. And for if you're watching or listening to this, we've put together a page on Tubblog all around GTIA with all the resources that we've mentioned here
Thank
today.
you.
Because we want to shine a light on you as well. We want to make it easy for people to find you. And
That's
again, I
awesome.
mentioned go back and listen to TubbTalk 161 with MJ and I sat down in Atlanta, Georgia last year talking about CompTIA, but as you can tell from this conversation, it's taking what we talked about there, and under the GTIA banner, it's going to get bigger and better than ever before. So, MJ, thanks for
Indeed.
your time today. I appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to seeing you out on the road.
Thank you. Same here.
Cheers.
Cheers.